What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm gonna review Greatest Hits album by Three Doors Down. Basically, this project is called The Greatest Hits, and it came out in the fall of 2012. So the thing about this particular project is this is after Matt Roberts, the lead guitarist off that particular band, had left the band in early 2012. As far as that pitch kind of particularly happened with it, he was with Three Doors Down from The Better Life in the year 2000 to about their 2011 album, which I'm not sure what that one's particularly kind of called, but he lasted about that particular point. The unfortunate thing on top of that is the fact that he passed on in 2016. So that's basically the concept of that original run of the original Three Doors Down band as far as that particular pitch can happen. But there is a new guitarist on here named Chet Roberts, which is pretty good. This is kind of a remastered version of this particular album. It has 9 songs from their original 4 or so albums. The only real album that's not on here in like the greatest hits format is just their 2011 album, I'd have to say, but they definitely do have most of their largest hits on here, at least in like a standard album package. It's actually kind of surprising that they went with like just a compact 12 songs, I'd have to say. The good news about this particular project, well, this album's going to get a classic score just because most of their best hits are on this particular album. But the thing about it is just the fact that there are some new songs on here, which is an interesting pitch because this is the first one with like their new lineup as far as their particular pitch kind of went with it. So some great concepts going to get here. All 3 of the new songs I recommend. So it's basically this is the best variation of greatest hits albums is when they add some new stuff on here, not just one song. It's especially great when they have like a handful, like with Eminem with what he did with Curtain Call and some of those type pitches. This is definitely a great concept. I think all 3 of them were released as singles on top of that, so it's a pretty good pitch. But at least the first song on here, One Light, was a single that charted on like the rock charts. It actually was a top 10 single on like the rock charts, so it's a pretty good pitch. But yeah, I just would have to say it's surprising that they didn't go for like more quantity on this particular album as far as that would kind of happen. I would have figured that there would have been more than 12 songs or something like that, just to kind of say. I realize that the concept of the greatest hits is to kind of leave out some songs just to prove what the best songs out of all the ones that were. It's not just a singles album. But I do feel like I definitely think the road I'm on from Away from the Sun was probably one that probably should have been on here. And I would also have to say I was surprised that they didn't have more hits from 17 Days or Three Doors Down self-titled from 2008. So it's kind of the concept. It's an interesting concept, but yeah, for the most part, this is a good greatest hits album. I feel like it has the quantity of it, but it kind of overweighs like the concept of their earliest days being the more quality bound as far as the pitch can happen. It's like all 4 of the singles from The Better Life are on here. 3 of the 4 singles from Away from the Sun are on here, and only one from 17 Days and one, like I was saying, one from 17 Days and one from Three Doors Down from 2008 are on here, which is kind of unfortunate. It's kind of have some of those particular type hits kind of missing as far as that format would kind of happen. I feel like they definitely kind of undermine their own success as far as that pitch can happen. Now, I realize that their multi-platinum albums were in the early 2000s days, but I would have to say it still kind of undermines the overall success rate that they had around the 2000s decade. So this is kind of the concept. But yeah, these songs are remastered just in a different format. I feel like the vocals, Brad Arnold went back and redid the vocals, I'd have to say as well. And I feel like a lot of these just feel a lot more ghostly and looming. I like the packaging of them being remastered as far as that particular kind of goes, but it's just a different element just because it's a different augmentation as the way that these songs were recorded back in the year 2000 or 2002, some of those type pitches. This has a little bit, this, I realize it's interesting that they don't really have as much alternative metal this time. I feel like their earlier hits are alternative metal, but it almost kind of blends into more of like an alternative rock type feel. This gives a little bit more looming, just kind of more makeshift rock chart type of feel, something for the whip, something like that to just get done with work and the work shift as far as that would particularly going to happen. But it's just less malaise and just more haunting. Like the concept about it just has a more haunting type aspect, which is interesting. Just to be able to suppose that you wouldn't think that Three Doors Down would kind of have that aspect, but it's not haunting in terms of like October kind of Halloween type music, but it just has that kind of for makeshift rock. It has that relative kind of ghastly type of feel, just in like a more kind of September type format, just something that's a little bit more moody and just kind of edgy, I'd have to say. So it's a good concept. But I've always felt like Three Doors Down has always pulled off the character of just having some compellingness just with the lyrics that they do and just kind of the edge that they kind of have in particular. It's not every single band that kind of has the character they had, and especially with some of these early albums. But nowadays I kind of like most of their albums that they've done. This is definitely one of them. So this is gonna get a classic score. But so yeah, there were 3 singles on this particular album. I'm just gonna go ahead and say this album's gonna get a 10 out of 10. Because the only song I don't recommend out of the 12 songs on here is just Away from the Sun from this album, Away from the Sun. That's just the concept about it. Like I was saying, I feel like they probably should have put The Road I'm on this particular album instead, but it's just kind of the concept that it probably would have been just maybe too moody and haunting. I feel like they needed kind of like an up tempo and more boppish type one, a little bit more jovial type one on here, but it's just the concept I just didn't vibe with that one as much. That's the only real reason I didn't like Away from the Sun, the title track. It's just a little bit, it's just more jovial and this kind of differential type tone and connotation as far as that particular kind of happens. I mean, it's not a horrid song. It's got a decent riff on there and pitches like that. It just reminds me of something that Creed would do with one of their more stretching type singles or just more ruminating, introspective type ones. But Three Doors Down just didn't pull it off quite as well. That's what I have to say. But to talk about the three singles on here, so basically the new single, the lead single, that's the new single on here, which has the new guitarist Chet Roberts on here. What I had has the new guitarist Chet Roberts on here. I'd have to say is One Light. This is pretty good pitch of one. It's like a back in the wind kind of motivated drive of a song. I'd have to say in particular, it's like a vanilla kind of alternative rock type tune. I'd have to say. There's just some good day commerce. I would definitely feel like this is just some good summer fun. So this one definitely reminds me of Duck and Run. I'd have to say there are some good connotations about some of these. So just the concept about some of these have some similarities. It's just kind of interesting because Three Doors Down really took a vacation after Matt Roberts departed in 2012. They only really put out one other project past the Matt Roberts days. I'd have to say so. It's an interesting concept. I didn't catch that back in the day. I always kind of wonder why they didn't put out more projects. I mean, to this day, as of 2024, they still have only put out one true album since 2011, back in the days when Matt Roberts was still involved with the band. So it's just kind of the concept. I don't know if they've full blown just come out and said that like that's the main reason why they haven't put out more music, but it's just the concept that they've only put out one album. I mean, this is an album that kind of was a pseudo album, had some new stuff on there, but they've only put out one true album since like the summer of 2011, I'd have to say. So it's just kind of the concept, but yeah, One Light's a definite nice one. Reminds me a lot of Duck and Run from the Better Life days, I'd have to say. Has some good riffish on there, just a real thumping type one. There's a Life is the second single. It's another nice one. This is more alternative metal, but I do appreciate the pitch of this. This is more in like the early type days, like Away from the Sun type vibes. I'd have to say it's like a moody kind of late day alternative metal drear of a song. I'd have to say definitely. This reminds me of Creed in a more edgy sense, I would definitely suppose, and this is just some catchy jive. So this one definitely reminds me of songs like Here Without You and When I'm Gone, I'd have to say. Specifically the road I'm on and When I'm Gone, I feel like maybe not as much Here Without You. There's a song that reminds me more of Here Without You, but I would have to say this reminds me of like 2002 Days from Three Doors Down. I have to say in particular, definitely like the riffage on this one. The instrumentation type fare on this particular song is pretty excellent. Just vintage stock kind of Three Doors Down, just within that sense. And then Goodbyes is the third single. This is another highlighted one. This is a real another nice one. This vintage kind of Three Doors Down, just within that pitch, same moody type fare. This is like a straightforward but grim kind of alternative rock stretcher, I'd have to say in particular. It's like a similar gleam to like Here Without You from the Away from the Sun type days. And this is just a pretty dope song. So definitely appreciate the pitch of this particular one. It's just kind of that same ambient type grimness that just particularly goes along with some of them. Like I said, this is not like haunting kind of October type music, but it definitely has some of that grim September type fare, just bar hopping and like the cooler weather, just pitches like that, I'd have to say. All three of these singles are some pretty good work shift type songs to kind of get here in particular. I just look after the concept. A lot of these just have like the standard appeal of Three Doors Down. They didn't slip on this particular album. They continue to maintain their edge. So it's just some good concepts kind of get some of these just within the concept that even with this new guitarist, which not to say that this guitarist is poor, but it's just kind of the concept as you start to get just as you start to get used to this new guitarist, it's just a pretty good concept kind of see some of these and how they turned out. But the production fare on all these is pretty excellent. I'd have to say just typical type fashion, I'd have to say. So I'm just going to go in on the rest of the greatest hits. Basically, I recommend all the songs like I was saying, minus Away from the Sun, the title track. So that's that's 4 songs off the Better Life from the year 2000, 2 songs off Away from the Sun, 1 song from 17 Days, and 1 song from Three Doors Down, Three Doors Down self-titled, I have to say. So most folks by this point, if you're a fan of Three Doors Down, should definitely know Kryptonite. This is like a classic kind of late evening malaise of a song I had to say in particular. It's like a great bar hopping and work shift lifestyle of a song I definitely would have to say. And this is just definitely the song is like a great bar hopping and work shift lifestyle dredge of a song I'd have to say in particular. And this is just a pretty good smash hit. So this is pretty much a staple of like the 2000s decade. It's definitely one of the biggest songs just in any genre of like 2000s music as far as that particular kind of went. Just dominated and lasted for a real good long while. The Better Life album from the year 2000 went 7 times platinum, so it's just a definitive type hit. I'd have to suppose definitely pretty flagship type song to kind of get here. I'd have to say has some great instrumentation. The guitar riff on the song is really catchy and memorable. I'd have to say it's a real distinct type one that just continues to be a staple on rock radio and just overall contemporary radio overall. Even today, I'd have to say 25 years later, so it's a pretty good pitch. The second single, Loser, is a pretty good follow up to that. It's like an earlier in the evening kind of work shift dredge of a song, I'd have to say, than Kryptonite, but it's a grand follow up. I would definitely have to say, in the remaster, haunts a little bit more than the original. I had to say this one's a little bit more luminous, has the more emphasis about it. It's a more kind of drawn out type feel, I would have to say, in particular. Definitely like the concept of it. I do feel like the guitar's differences, it's light touches, but I feel like the concept of it just has a different kind of aesthetic and like a mild synth, I'd have to say, but I do appreciate the concept. Yeah, this one's definitely earlier in the evening. I feel like if Kryptonite's at like 8:39 p.m., it's like the things are starting to get started, the shindigs are starting to get started, pitches like that as the bar hopping starts to happen. I feel like this one's kind of just got done with work, maybe 6:15 p.m., 6:30, something like that. Some of those type pitches is like the sun's starting to set, some of that type fare. It's a good concept. This was the #1 single on like the rock chart, so this is a great follow up back in the day. Duck and Run's a pretty nice one. This is another single off of Three Door, or this is another single off of The Better Life. I'd have to say it's like an up tempo kind of vanilla rock brewer. I'd have to say in particular, it's like a pretty standard commerce snap. I would definitely suppose pretty good concept for that. Has some great riffage on here. This is like a good midday work shift atmosphere of a song to kind of get. So this is definitely like an energizer of one to kind of get in particular. This one's different from like the alternative metal tour or some of the first two songs like Loser and Kryptonite. I'd have to say the acoustic type fare of Loser is a little bit different. That one's just more of like it can be a wind down song, but it can also be one to get you revved up, I'd have to say. And then Kryptonite's just some evening fare. But Duck and Run's definitely like an energizer type one, just a real type one to really get things started. It's not like a full blown kind of house party type song, but definitely one that kind of sparks things, this stuff like that really gets the party revved as far as that particular kind of happens, or just gets the shindigs going. Just some thrilling type energy for being in the wet pitches like that and just getting excited, I have to suppose. But then Be Like That switches up the tempo. This is the fourth single off The Better Life. This is another highlighted one. Back in the day, I think I said I didn't recommend this song, but nowadays I do. I do appreciate this song a lot more. It's like a dredgy kind of evening wind down. The song is like a dredgy kind of evening wind down of a song, I'd have to say in particular. It's like a stellar kind of adult contemporary summer stretcher of a song, I'd have to say, definitely within that concept. And this is like some blue collar haze, I would have to say. Just some dope concepts kind of get this one in particular. This is definitely one. This is another one that was pretty lasting on like the charts in terms of like adult contemporary. This is one when you listen to adult contemporary rock, you probably heard a number of times just because it's another distinct type one. It's kind of an emotional type song, I'd have to say. I mean, maybe not full blown, but it's just kind of one has a little bit more meaning and just overall just composition about it compared to some of these other ones where a lot of these are just frivolous and just kind of just snappy and just in the moment, just aspects behind. But this one just has a little bit more this deeply rooted kind of composition about it. I had to say in particular, but it is pretty good summer stretcher. Just some good concepts, just for some more work shift kind of haze. If you like to feel Loser, but you want something a little bit more emotional, a little bit more this like kind of ambient and just kind of more of the stuff that Marcy Playground and some of those type folks like Third Eye Blind kind of do, just those evening stretchers as far as the particular kind of goes. This is a more malaise type one, but this is definitely more in like wind down type mode. I'd say, just be able to say that Loser at least has some decent pep, or maybe you'll step out, get a few, maybe you'll step out, get a few beers, something like that, pick up some snacks or pizza or something. But Be Like That's just more in wind down, kind of go to sleep and just watch the news, wind down for the night type attitude, I'd have to say. Kind of happens to be a thing. The singles off Away from the Sun are the typical ones that you'd think, minus The Road of Mine, which is not on here. But When I'm Gone is a nice one. It's like a malaise kind of blue collar ruminating of a song. I had to say in particular. The thing about Away from the Sun is they ruminated a lot, and that's a pretty good concept. That's definitely one of their most compelling in terms of their characters. That second album they had from 2002 is like a good steadfast evolution of Kryptonite. I had to say, just a little bit more low key, not quite as snappy of a song, I'd say, but still a pretty good concept, especially in a single format. And this is just like got some vanilla rock charm, I'd have to say. So yeah, when I say that When I'm Gone is like an evolution of Kryptonite, I basically mean they're the same type of drudgy type format of like some evening malaise as far as that particular kind of goes. But this one's, I feel like Kryptonite's definitely like a more high mid tempo, up tempo type song to kind of get. But this one just a little bit more. When I'm Gone is just like a standard mid tempo type one to get, but it's definitely some affable type tunes to kind of hear for just got done with worship and pitches like that, or even amidst the worship and like the evening haze. Here Without You is a real nice one. This has a lot of character about it. This is a military type song that just works pretty damn well in pitches like that, or just overall fallen folks, just as far as the particular kind of happens. It's a great concept, real personal type song to kind of get. This is like a good cousin to When I'm Gone, I would definitely have to say, and a great combo with that particular song. I would definitely have to say it's a great 1-2 punch to kind of get within that aspect. When I'm Gone, Here Without You just really make for a good combination, just overall appeal, just that particular album, Away from the Sun, I'd have to say. And I feel like The Road I'm On, it's another good highlighted one. I would definitely, it's really too bad that they didn't go for like that 13th song and kind of throw that on here. I mean, I realize that that song didn't chart as heavily, but that's like a good 1, 2, 3 type punch to get all three of those songs. This is more late day work shift haze, I'd have to say in particular, and this is just a rock staple. It has definitely pretty highlighted type one. I think it's because of songs like this and When I'm Gone that they particularly modernized on like their later albums and started to gum me down kind of their lyrics distant later on. I just wonder, it's been a long while since I've listened to Three Doors Down from 2008, so I wonder what happened with that particular album. I reviewed that back in 2017 or 2018, but I just question like the concept of where their lyrics went. Because when I reviewed 17 Days back in February, I kind of felt like the lyrics were just kind of a different composition. They were kind of more malaise and just kind of forlorn on Away from the Sun from 2002, but their 2005 album just they kind of picked up their act and just became more modernized. I just didn't appreciate as much, but I still do like those songs off that particular album. I think it's because of songs like Here Without You and When I'm Gone that particularly kind of happened, but still pretty dope songs here. Let Me Go is the only single from 17 Days. Speaking of that particular album, this is a pretty highlighted one. Now, I do like this song. It's just a good aspect. It's like a light lick, kind of acoustic like Drew of a song, I had to say in particular. This has some workaday moodiness about it, I have to suppose. And this is just like a vintage Three Doors Down type song, I'd have to say. And the character has some pretty good charms on here. So I do feel like the affability, even if it's more lighter tone and just watered down, I do feel like some of these concepts just work pretty well just within that aspect. It's another classic hit for Three Doors Down. Definitely one off of 17 Days. It's too bad that there weren't more hits off that particular album. I do feel like there were some other ones. I don't remember them as full blown just because I haven't purchased yet 17 Days. But I would have to say I'm going to have to get back to some Three Doors Down in terms of purchases. But there's some good concepts kind of get some of that. It's Not My Time. It's the only single off of Three Doors Down from 2008, I'd have to say. But this is like a mildly haunting. The song is like a mildly haunting kind of evening blue collar haze of a song, I'd have to say in particular. It's like a great evening owl type music, not just night owl, but evening owl, just late shift type stuff. Just as you wake up at like 5:30, 6:30 p.m. and get started with your nightlife as far as that particular pitch kind of happens with it. And this is just some later on kind of traverse, I'd have to say. So definitely some night type fare, just going to bars, but just like that, sports bars, just things of that nature, just nightlife and some of those type fares, even if it's strip clubs or gentlemen's clubs, some of those type pitches, casinos, some of that type stuff, wings, casinos, some of that type stuff, Wingstop, and overall restaurants, some of that type of just some excellent type concepts. Just appreciate the nightlife and have some of those type times. It's a real nice one. I kind of feel like Three Doors Down, from what I remember of it, the self-titled album from 2008 is like an updated, like The Better Life, I'd had to say in particular. It has, because that's one thing about Away from the Suns. That one didn't have very many nightclub and step out type songs like Kryptonite or Duck and Run, some of those type moments. But I kind of feel like Three Doors Down from 2008 might have had some of those type moments. Just kind of the concept was just an upgrade and like the concept that they were in the year 2000, where I feel like the thing about 17 Days is just the concept that it just had a lot more shaping up and just a lot more modest type appeal about it. I don't remember that one as much, but I would have to say from what I remember of it, it just kind of, it had four singles, but it just were in a lot more straightforward type format, just kind of standard kind of appeal, just being like a face of rock as far as a particular kind of went. That's this kind of thing. So yeah, this album gets a 10 out of 10. I would have to say definitely appreciate this concept. Me only not recommending one song out of the 12 on here. I do feel like a minor complaint is the fact that they probably should have thrown a few more singles on here. I know they wanted the best of the best just to kind of have it have the most snappiness about it, but it's this kind of concept. I feel like maybe some songs got the short end of the stick. Definitely kind of the concept. I'm glad that there were three new songs in here. That's a definite excellent type concept. Get all three of these are pretty damn good. Three Doors Down continuing to be in their prime at that same particular. The social score is definitely going to get a 10 out of 10 also because they're back with a vengeance despite the fact that Matt Roberts wasn't on here. I do feel like this Chet Roberts cat was pretty good just with his guitar work and pitches like that. This kind of happens to be a thing. Brad Arnold did a pretty good job with some of this, as did the rest of the band, that I suppose. It's just got some social affability. A lot of this is just evening type fare. This is pretty night bound, I'd say. So if you are a night out, evening out pitches like that, this works really well. Like those places I was describing before, places like Wingstop and casinos and some of those type places, gentlemen's clubs, dance clubs, some of those type fairs, just nightlife, pool halls, pitches like that. There's just plenty of stuff to kind of have for that relative appeal, just going with that. There's even some good day commerce in here as well. Just some work shift type tunes, some songs like Loser and Be Like That, some of those type ones. Let Me Go is a pretty nice one for the work shift, some of those type ones in particular. I would even say that Goodbyes is a nice concept for that. But there's just a lot of songs overall that just have that good and great work shift overall appeal. So it's just a great concept, just a good accompaniment and accustomment. Just a great accompaniment and loud pack to some of that blue collar night shift and just pitches like that. Just appreciating between like, just 2 o'clock p.m. to about 10 o'clock p.m. Some of those type pitches as far as that particular kind of happens. It's not as many full blown, just like crazy, get like tons of drinks in your system and just really shake your ass and dance club. Some of those type pitches, just pitches like that as far as that craziness. I feel like probably one of the craziest songs on here would be either Kryptonite, It would be either Kryptonite, Duck and Run, or One Light, I'd have to say, but it's just kind of the concept that for the most part, they're just supposed to get you more excited more so than have you full blown being carnivorous. But it's not really like that's too much of like a complaint, just because most of this is just kind of an accompaniment to just work shift in this pitch like that. Just your loud pack to like standard blue collar type fare, just the aspect of just the approach of just going out and having some relatively jovial, this kind of relatively jovial type tones, I'd have to say, but it's just kind of the concept about it. So yeah, it's not full blown It's not full blown Metallica or Marilyn Manson or White Zombie, but I would have to say it's not like that's a problem because there's some excellent type stuff here. This album gets a 10 out of 10. Social Score gets a 10 out of 10. In terms of the future, like once again, Three Doors Down has been gone since 2016. Like I said, they haven't put out an album. They haven't put out more than one album since 2011, since Matt Roberts was alive and with the band. I'd have to say in particular as far as that pitch kind of happens with it. But hopefully we do get some more Three Doors Down. It'll be interesting to kind of see what else kind of goes along with this group as far as that particular kind of happens. Because yeah, I have a few more projects to review by them, and we'll have to see about some of these. I do know that they have a Christmas album also that's pretty secret, so I'm going to get to that one as well. There might be like another compilation, but I think that's about it in terms of greatest hits. Maybe, maybe not, but there's at least a couple more projects I want to get to. But this is a classic. Has some new stuff on here, so I definitely recommend it. These songs are remastered, some pitches like that, so it's just a concept. You get like a mildly new format with some of these other 9 songs that are on here, and the new songs are all pretty wicked and kick ass and are worth checking out just with like this new burst of energy and a restyled look that works pretty well for them.